For this fight, I've wrestled with alligators. I've tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning and put thunder in jail.
Cassius Clay exploded onto the scene in 1960 as the audacious boxer known as the Louisville Lip. Clay would change his name and the course of American history, first as an Olympic and heavyweight champion, and in later years as a civil rights activist, anti-war crusader, and eventually a beloved figure who valiantly fought Parkinson's disease. I sat down with author Jonathan Eig to discuss his epic new biography of Ali.
I'm going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see.
The brash young athlete who emerged in the early 1960s was quick, charismatic, what one writer called Harry Belafonte with muscles.
I give you one more chance. Who's the greatest? You are!
In his new biography, Ali, A Life, author Jonathan Eig says the boxer born Cassius Clay, the dyslexic son of an abusive father, was just looking for a way to fight back.
And it was boxing. Boxing put him in a ring, gave him a chance to punch white people in the face, gave him a chance to prove that he was bigger and stronger and better than his father, and it gave him a chance to speak out.
I am the greatest.
The phrase, I am the greatest, became four of the most important words in the civil rights movement.
That alone was a radical act for a black person to say he was the greatest, and it became a real rallying cry. You see the Black Power movement adopting that.
I must be the greatest.
Lingering behind those words, said the African-American magazine Ebony at the time, is a blast furnace of race pride.
Most of all, I'm pretty. Most fighters are ugly.
I know I'm a nice-looking man. I don't care. You don't have to tell me.
In 1964, Clay took on heavyweight champion Sonny Liston. Almost none of the sports writers thought he would beat Sonny Liston.
The only question was whether he was going to be merely knocked out or whether he was going to be killed.
They were all wrong. And the day after he beat Liston, Clay startled the world again when he announced his conversion to Islam. He was now Muhammad Ali. He had to have known that doing that was going to make it challenging for him.
He heard it directly from these white businessmen who were managing his career. They said, "You're killing us." You know, we had Coca-Cola offers on the table. After he declared that he wouldn't fight in Vietnam, it got even worse. Then he was banned from boxing and couldn't get a fight anyway against anybody.
When would you say that Ali's reputation changed?
I think the big change comes in 1971 when he fights Joe Frazier, the fight of the century, Madison Square Garden. He's been in exile. He was banned from boxing. He was the most hated man in America. And he's finally allowed to fight again. And by now, by 1971, our views on Vietnam have changed. And then he gets in the ring with Joe Frazier, and he gets whooped. He gets knocked flat on his butt and gets up again. And I think that moment when he gets up is the moment when people begin to feel differently about Muhammad Ali. But the pounding Ali was taking in the ring, according to Eig's research, more than 200,000 punches over the course of his career, was already taking a toll. Ali's own team started to see it actually quite early. Shockingly early. His fight doctor, his ring doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, told me that he saw damage as early as 1971.
This might be my last fight tonight.
Changes in his speech, in his ability to pay attention, and he saw it after the very first Joe Frazier fight, and that he never recovered from that. Eig worked with scientists at Arizona State University to study Ali's speech as an indicator of cognitive damage. From 1970 to 1980, when he's still fighting at the age of 38, his speech declines by 26%. When you say his speech declines, what do you mean exactly? I mean the number of syllables per second.
He's got to beat people like Kid Norton.
If even his own team saw it, why did he keep fighting?
Money. He saw it too. Ali talked about it. His wives, his parents came to him and said, "We can't understand what you're saying. You're mumbling. What's wrong?" He was concerned about it, but he still kept fighting. Happy birthday to you. He's a mythic figure, but he's also a very human figure. You sometimes get the feeling that he's the Dalai Lama, the way the media treated him toward the end. And that wasn't the case. He was a deeply flawed person. We don't do him any kind of a service by making him into this two-dimensional mythic figure. I wanted him to be real. I want readers to understand what he really was like.
I can drown a drink of water and kill a dead tree. Wait till you see Muhammad Ali.
It really is an epic story, and you know, so many dimensions you didn't imagine before. Jonathan Eig interviewed hundreds of people, all of his surviving ex-wives and wife, and it's such a complicated, fascinating picture.
And at a moment when we're talking about race and sports, and also traumatic brain injuries and the effects that they have in the long term, so timely.